I hope I am audible and visible, and I believe there is the camera, so I will look at the camera. And I just want to confirm if I am actually audible or visible or not, so please bear with me. This is a one-man operation, so I have to do everything. I can't rely on people telling me what's going on. So I'll just check my YouTube account from a different device to see if I am actually live or not. Bear with me. In the course of today's live stream, I am going to talk about, so yes, I am visible. In the course of today's live stream, I am going to talk about videos 531 to 542. I just want to see if I am audible. So I'll just check my YouTube account from. Yes, so I do sound like I am audible, so I'll continue now. Thank you for your patience. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about videos 531 to 542. The purpose of these live streams is to be accountable to my viewers. I have the honesty and accountability to appear live so that if I have pointed out, if I have made some mistakes in any of my videos, you can point them out and I can place my side of the story live, or if you have any questions, any doubts, then I can clear them live. So that's the main reason why I upload these live videos, live streams. So I'll just pull up the list of the videos just because I don't want to miss any, and I do want to go in sequence. So video number 531 talked about longest country names, and I talked about 10 countries, and the longest country name in the world as per the official name is the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, which is quite surprising. Most of us, we just refer to it as England or UK or just United Kingdom, but the entire name is United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. So it's a it's a long name, and there are other names also for the United Kingdom. There are names for its protected territories and realm and all that, but that's not an official name. Also, the interesting name on that list was the official name of Libya for some time when Muammar Gaddafi was the ruler there. Please do check that video out, video number 531, longest country names. In video number 532, I talked about what Frankie Boyle had to say about the NHS in 2016, and it was a widely watched video. Frankie Boyle is one of my favorite comedians. He is Scottish, and he talked about the health system in the United Kingdom, which really is something which is equal parts of comedy, satire and pathos. So that's something which I really liked reading, so I wanted to share it with my viewers here. In video number 533, I talked about banned speech in the United States of America. The United States of America has perhaps the world's most robust free speech laws. American citizens can almost say anything they want without fear of being persecuted by the government, which is not the case in most parts of the world. But even in the United States of America, the First Amendment does not protect certain speech, certain things that people can say is not protected by the First Amendment, and I talked about 6 different court cases which are publicly available. The data about the court cases, the judgment, the summary, all of that is publicly available. I talked about those 6 cases, 6 or 7 cases in that video, which talked about the various things that Americans cannot say, even though America has a very powerful First Amendment to its constitution, which grants the right to its citizens to freedom of speech. In video number, and the genesis of this video was, there was this video by Akash Singh, a very famous comedian, who interviewed somebody from India, I think Kushal Mehra, where they were complaining about how freedom of speech does not really exist in India. And I understand where they're coming from, because in India you have the freedom to say whatever you want, but the other person and the state also has the right to sue you for whatever you have said if reasonable grounds for suing you exist. In video number 534, I talked about the commie corridor in the beating heart of capitalism. So, the beating heart of capitalism worldwide is New York, home to Wall Street and one of the most prominent financial institutions in the world. And in New York, you also have these areas which are called Commie Corridor collectively. Those are areas where people with left-leaning political opinions reside, and it is not an official name. You don't have any signboards or map destinations called Commie Corridor, but it has become a well-known, widely used term for the areas of New York where people largely, almost exclusively, have left-leaning political opinions. It's very interesting that the city where the most powerful capitalist financial institutions exist also coexists with a very densely populated communist, or not communist but definitely left-leaning political thought leaders, one of whom will be running for the mayoral race in New York. He is not a self-described communist. I don't think he is a communist, but he certainly is running to the left of most mainstream politicians that I know of in the United States of America. In video number 535, I talked about the red triangle near the west coast of the United States of America, and red triangle has got nothing to do with the red flags of communism. Red triangle here talks about the great white shark population off the coast of San Francisco, where a lot of shark attacks do happen throughout the year, but this remains a very vibrant tourist destination and also a very popular surfing spot, believe it or not. In video number 536, I talked about the rivalry between Jon Stewart and Bill Maher. This is a rivalry that is more in my head than probably in there, but I have always felt that they are rivals, though there hasn't been, this is not a very well documented rivalry. It's not covered on a daily basis or a wide basis like say Jay Leno versus David Letterman, but I have felt that Jon Stewart and Bill Maher have a rivalry which is probably, it flies under the radar. There is an undercurrent of it. Because why do I feel that? Because I feel the concept of stand-up comedians talking about day-to-day political matters was largely the invention of Bill Maher. If not his invention, he certainly made it mainstream on American television with his show Politically Incorrect, which released in 1993, I think, a full 6 years before Jon Stewart started hosting The Daily Show. Now, if you ask an American or anyone who is the OG, who is the first person to make political satire mainstream for comedians, people generally would say Jon Stewart, and then they would say Bill Maher. They would almost think that they are contemporaries in this matter, but Bill Maher had a 6-year head start, and despite that, Jon Stewart gets equal if not more recognition for that. So that I feel could be a cause for a rivalry. If not at all, then I am completely wrong, but I wanted to talk about that rivalry in video number 536, Jon Stewart versus Bill Maher, both of whom I like a lot. In video number 537, I wanted to talk about whether the actor or the director is more important to a motion picture, and my supposition was that yes, director is the captain of the team. Everything that happens in a motion picture is largely directed by the director. That's why it's called the director. It's in the name. And you can make very good movies like E.T., Bicycle Thief, Pather Panchali, excellent movies which have proved successful in terms of their longevity. But if you really want to make a very successful blockbuster movie, then also you can get rid of very good actors. Like Jurassic Park, it doesn't have any stars. Of course, Richard Attenborough is a well-known name, but he's not a movie star. Sam Neill is not a movie star. Okay. So even blockbuster movies can be made without mainstream movie stars, but movie stars also have, or actors also have, a very important contribution to make, because generally when we remember a movie, when we close our eyes and try to remember a movie, the scenes that it is the scenes that we think of, and generally those scenes feature actors. It might be a completely computer generated scene. For example, if you are thinking of Life of Pi, you are probably thinking of the tiger who doesn't really exist. But if you are thinking of a Schindler's List, you are probably thinking of the little girl, or you are thinking of Liam Neeson, or you are thinking about Ben Kingsley. If you are thinking about Gandhi, you are certainly thinking about Ben Kingsley. So, actors also play a very important role, and it's more of a symbiotic relationship than I would believe. It's not completely unequal. The power dynamics are not unequal. Also, the shelf life of great directors is significantly shorter than the shelf life of great actors, and the number of great actors is always more than the number of great directors, because film direction is mostly a 20th century phenomenon, whereas acting has existed in various forms for many centuries, dating all the way back to at least to the time of William Shakespeare. And William Shakespeare was born in 1564, and plays must have existed even before that. Acting also must have existed before that. So, human beings are familiar with the art of acting much more than they are with the art of film directing. So, naturally there are less number of good film directors than the number of good actors. Consequently, you will see many good actors feature in many ordinary films, because those were directed by not as good directors. In video number 538, I talked about an easy technique, easy in my opinion, of memorizing the maxillary cancer staging. Maxillary cancer is one of the cancers which are very important for students of ENT, and I wanted to explain an easy technique of remembering maxillary cancer TNM staging, also the overall staging of maxillary cancer. In video number 539, I talked about The Walrus and the Carpenter by Lewis Carroll, one of my favorite poems, which I first read when I was in, I think, 9th standard. So that's I think 20 years back. It was nice revisiting that poem, which really says more than what immediately meets the eye, which is the beauty of Lewis Carroll. It's not just about making someone laugh, it's also something which makes you think. In video number 540, I talked about the Metro Dogs of Moscow and Anton Chekhov's Kashtanka, because the issue of stray dogs has been quite prominent in the zeitgeist of late. So I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to look at other parts of the world, how they have dealt with the stray dog issue, and I was very enthralled by the information I could find about the metro dogs in Moscow, who had figured out how to use the metro system in Moscow. And my father pointed out that there are dogs in Mumbai, who have figured out how to use the local train network in Mumbai. Not surprising. In video number 541, I talked about why the French Open men's singles trophy will never be renamed after Rafael Nadal, because of the French pride for the Four Musketeers. Please do check it out. In video number 542, I talked about the entire text of the Supreme Court judgment on the stray dogs menace in India, and I feel it is an important judgment, although I've come across three kinds of reactions to it. One is obviously that this is animal cruelty, and one should not really be so mean to dogs. This is a very drastic solution. It's too absolute. There is no room for nuance. All that. There is the other side of the argument that yes, dogs do represent a very important reason for the rabies disease burden in India, and rabies certainly is one of the most deadliest, if not the most deadly disease that a human being can get. And so all sources of rabies, starting with stray dogs, should be effectively dealt with. And there is the third line of argument that the Supreme Court should not be interfering in this. This should be left to the policy makers, the government, the legislative authorities, the executive, all that. The judiciary really can't really solve this problem. even if they issue orders. So, my opinion about this is that I do acknowledge that India is perhaps the global capital when it comes to rabies. I don't think any other country has as much death and as many cases of rabies. And rabies, as you know, after 24 hours, if it's not treated properly, and the treatment is through post-exposure injections which are not widely available. So, if a person is not, if suffers a dog bite, the dog has rabies and the person does not take immediate medical treatment, does not receive immediate medical treatment, then the human being can get rabies and then they die in 10 days and they die a very painful death. Rabies is also known as hydrophobia. The person cannot stand water. Forget drinking water, they can't even tolerate the tolerate water falling on their body. And I know people who have seen rabies patients. The rabies patients are admitted in isolation in hospitals, and it's a very sad state in which they live and die. The last few days are very, very traumatic. So, whenever there is human animal conflict, I feel that as human beings we should take the side of human beings first, while ensuring that the animals are also not completely exterminated. We cannot live on this planet without animals. Animals are important, they play important ecological roles. Now, while dogs may not be keystone species, but they do play an important role in society. Now, what I have understood is that because the cleanliness is really an afterthought in most places in India, because of the garbage accumulating, dog population is proliferating. There has been a boom in the dog population, and because there are so many dogs, instances of dog bites are also increasing. So, the solution that was suggested is catch the dogs, put them into shelters, vaccinate them, deworm them, sterilize them, and then don't release them. That is the difference between the existing rules and the Supreme Court judgment. The existing rule says after doing all of that, catching them, immunizing them, deworming them, sterilizing them, you also have to release them. Even if the dog has bitten someone, even if the dog is very furious in nature, even then the existing rules say as long as the dog does not have rabies, the dog should be released to the same spot 10 days later by the Animal Welfare Organization. That is the existing rule, which is something that Supreme Court does not like as per the judgment I read, and there is merit in that opinion that dogs which are biting people should not be released onto the streets, just like human beings who are committing crimes are not released without any punishment, without any incarceration, anything. They are deemed to be danger to society. That is why they are kept in prison. So, the same rule would also apply to dogs, one would think. So, what the Supreme Court has said is that you have to keep these dogs either at home or in dog shelters, not on the streets, not in public places, which I believe is a commendable judgment. I totally support it, but I have some issues with it. Issue number one is the dog population that has been singled out is the population of stray dogs in Delhi, in Gurugram, in Ghaziabad, in Faridabad, and in Noida. I hope I have not missed anything. Delhi, Gurugram, Ghaziabad, Noida, and Faridabad. That's the largely speaking, we are talking about the NCR, Delhi NCR, National Capital Region. Now, I don't know the terrain that well, but unless there is a well designated water body like a big river that cannot be covered on foot, that really is a perennial river always full of water, if there is no natural boundary, then the dogs can easily infiltrate. You remove all the dogs from the designated pin codes, then the dogs from the surrounding areas would come in and they would fill the vacuum. That's what I think would happen, unless these geographical natural barriers are already in place. So, assuming those barriers are in place and these designated areas are completely rid of dogs, now the roads are completely free of dogs. I think monkeys can then take over. There can be an ecological side effect that we are not able to foresee. There are many monkeys in Delhi. I have seen monkeys in Delhi, even in Lutyens Delhi. I have seen monkeys. So maybe they'll become more bold. They'll start roaming the streets, and monkeys can also be a nuisance. Monkeys can also be a source of diseases, even rabies. Rabies is not just by dogs, although primarily by dogs, but rabies can also spread through cats, I think through monkeys also. So, and there are areas in the country where, especially near national parks and forests, where leopards are commonly seen to be infiltrating urban areas. This is well documented. You can see National Geographic shows on this. So, if there are dogs, they generally raise the alarm, but if dogs are removed from the streets, these leopards can be quite a menace. So, the Supreme Court has passed a very good judgment, but they should also not believe, in my humble opinion, that just stray dogs are the problem. Other animals can also be a problem. And as far as the issue of dogs causing road accidents, that is definitely true, but buffaloes and cows are also a big menace when it comes to roads. They can be seen in almost every road, and that's also something which makes driving difficult and can cause accidents. So, these animals should also be looked at, I believe, in the future by the Honorable Supreme Court. So, this was my live stream. I hope I was visible and audible throughout, and thank you for watching this. Take care, bye bye, and I'll see you soon.